Welcome to Goldfish on Games, where a little while ago I said Quake 2 didn't have too much of a modding scene, or at least didn't have much in the way of total conversions. Well, guess what I found a couple of weeks later? Total conversions for Quake 2 for Windows 95 and MS-DOS. Or, as they labelled it on the CD, Quake, total conversions for 2. Which makes it sound like a set meal from a takeaway. According to the back, it includes loads of extra maps, level conversions, tools, FAQs, and much more. So let's boot this up on my Windows 98 machine and check it out. And what we find is, well, a few folders and some very basic README files. There's no menu or tool to help us here. Just what has the potential to be a nicely organised folder structure. But I'd like to point some things out right now. There is no folder called Total Conversions. There's a Partial Conversions one. There's a Jedi Knight one. But no Total Conversions. So I think that name might have been a lie. We obviously have to start with some deathmatch, as that was what Quake 2 was known for, right? Well, in this folder we have a few maps, like Warfare Warehouse, which is fine, but a little cramped and confusing, and I'm using the EraserBot mod that they included in the AI folder. And while they aren't great with this map, they do work and it can be a lot of fun. Now let's check out another one. This is Danger Room. And ouch, my eyeballs. Wow, I think when they compiled this map, they didn't do the lighting at all. And I think even if they fixed that, it's not the best map I've ever played. It's just a few rooms with a teleporter into one big one. I also found a few multiplayer mods. One that changes the scores, so it's now how much damage you've done rather than how many kills you've had. Which is a neat idea, but I'm not sure how much it would really change up the scores. But I will say, I have had a few games where I've done a lot of damage but not got a single kill. There is also one for a game of tag, where one person is it and they glow yellow. They get boosted damage and health, and get points by taking out all the other players. Everyone else, well, they only get points by taking them out. It's a fun mod, but the version included on the CD only worked with Quake 2 version 3.10, which is a little bit of a pain to get set up and running. I am hoping things will get a bit better as we check out the single player levels, and the first one is named First, and it's not boding well at all. I'm thinking this was literally someone's first map that they uploaded. Thankfully, the next one is much better in the form of the Ruins of Arcan, a mini episode made out of 3 levels, which is set after the main event of the game. And I had a lot of fun going around the base, heading into the lava-filled caves, and I do like a map that highlights an area that will be more important later on. As there's also a lot of returning back to early rooms in this one. But it all ends in a boss rush, which isn't my favourite. More so when I use the quad damage in an earlier boss fight, and I didn't realise this was coming. But it does have a bit of an interesting ending.
Computer updated. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Payback. A level that you could tell the designer was having a lot of fun, as it starts with this aircraft blowing a hole in the door. And then you go on this enjoyable mission trying to find the various items to help push you forward, all with lots of computer messages to help you on the way, while being wrapped up in some interesting architecture and level design. Now, if you hadn't guessed it by now, this is just a CD of random stuff that the publisher just found on the internet and then put on the CD. Now the closest I got to finding an actual name for this company was on the registration card, which was addressed to Computer Sales Division. But they did put a text file on the CD just called new.txt, and it lists what they thought were some of the better maps. And this one was on the top of the list. So I figure we'll continue to play some of these named levels. First Strike. Another amazing looking level, even if it suffers a little from the "we made it a bit too dark" problem, which does seem to be a quite common thing, as lighting a level is an art form in itself. But outside of that, we do find some early secrets. See Juggernaut, you can add secrets to Quake 2 maps, and it's not that difficult. And this one is very in keeping with the looks of the original maps. And I mean that as well. It does look like this could have been in the original game. It is something that we're going to see quite often with these maps, which might make it a little bit difficult to tell one map from the next. As for the most part, these are all using the base textures, they don't come with anything new. And they are also attempting to recreate that same look and feel of the original game. Abandon All Hope. Another short level, but again, very nicely designed. It has these nice touches where many of the guns are dropped by the monsters. This does mean that you have to beat them to upgrade to start off with, but it does give it a very decent progression curve, even if I did have to fight a tank before I thought I was really ready for it. It also has a bit of a lack of ammo, and I ended up having to use the grenades, thrown, not even the launcher, to take down the mini-boss at the end. Now let's take a break from looking at the single player maps and check out some of the new weapons that they also included, like the Drastic Pack, which added a number of alternative weapons, like the Triple Shot Blaster with bouncing bullets. Or the Leaf Blower. Now, because these are compiled mods, I found they were far more likely to fail to load on a modern source port like Yagami, which I've been using. Some even failed to load in the original game, as they were designed for very specific versions of Quake 2, which makes checking them out a little bit more work, but it is worth it when the mods themselves are fun. Sporadic Ease Weapon Enhancement. This one has a few interesting changes, like the lava gun that fires out balls of lava, that creates some very nice looking explosions. But that's not all. There is also the rapid rocket launcher, when those times when one missile is just not enough. This is also followed up by the rapid fire railgun. Now, the big issue with these types of mods is that, well, yes, they are compiled DLLs, so trying to mix and match them with other mods isn't really possible. So you can really only use them with vanilla Quake 2 deathmatch. One very interesting mod is Whack, that not only gives you a blaster with a serious upgrade with its 5-shot variant, but it also does the same thing with the rocket launcher. And as for the grenades, well, they're now packed with rail shots. It also provides a front end for editing the weapons, allowing you to turn things on and off, but also setting the damage and speed of most of the guns, so you can now turn the machine gun into the deadliest weapon in the game. Now, the more I look into the CD, the more I realise, well, how badly put together it was, as I found a folder called Ghost in the Shell. And I was really looking forward to checking it out, but it just kept giving me errors on loading. Well, it turns out, this is a Quake 1 mod. And while there isn't too much to it, I do like the rain that they put in. I guess now we know why they put MS-DOS on the front of the CD case. They also included this weird Hexen total conversion for Quake 1 mod? Yeah, someone decided to try and port Hexen 1 to Quake. Now it's quite interesting, but I'm not sure how far they really got with it, as it feels that they were mostly focusing on multiplayer, which to be honest was what most of the Quake 2 mods were also doing, because at this point the 3.12 patch hadn't been released, so its multiplayer was still very limited, as we didn't have those dedicated deathmatch maps yet. And based on the fact that the version 3.10 patch is included on the CD, I'm gonna guess this must have been released in early 1998. And I have to say, the user base had been pulling off some amazing maps this early on, like Versicoloured Vermiliation, a great use of lighting and texture work going on here, with some detailed geometry as well, making this for a fun and interesting level. Now I think the bit I enjoyed the most here was finding the secrets, as they were very cleverly placed, but they had hints to give you an idea of where to go and what to do. Although I'm not sure the rocket jump that I did was quite needed here, but then I couldn't quite get up onto the side where I think they expected you to go. In going through that new .txt file, I read the description for Bad Seed, that talked about a 4-level scenario that had you looping back between the various maps, with stuff in one affecting the other, and I got really excited, as that sounded exactly what I wanted to check out. Problem was, it wasn't on the CD. So instead, let's go with the Strog Particle Laser, which is a very strong map. There's some nice large areas with lots of detail going on, and they clearly were enjoying the new tools that Quake 2 brought, with this spinning bit and this machinery, both of which hide secrets if you go looking. But weirdly, it felt like that was the actual route that you were meant to go, as I found the keys that were required to finish the level. Now there might have been other routes that you could have got to them, but these actually seemed like the more obvious way to go. And if you're feeling nostalgic, then there's Slipgate 98. If Quake 2 is feeling too new for you, then why not play the first map from Quake 1, with all the fancy upgrades of Quake 2. The weapon progression seems a little bit off, as you get the railgun before anything else. I'm also not a big fan of replacing the dogs with the parasites, as I really do not enjoy that monster. But they have included all the original secrets, that is, if you can spot them in this very dark rendition of the map. Vostok Rising. Now this is a really fun little map, and it's quite unique as it does not take place on Strogos, but on Earth before the invasion, as you're prospecting for gold when you stumble upon an alien base. And we do what we always do in this situation: we steal all their guns and use them to take out themselves. Now this does include a huge number of flyers. Wow, did they enjoy putting flyers in the level. And after getting stuck on a rock crusher that, well, didn't crush, I needed to use a little bit of no clipping to get out of there. For the most part, I've not really had too many issues like this on these maps, but every so often you can work your way into situations where, well, the developer hadn't really thought about it. But overall, this is a very well done map, as they've even included some custom textures and voice samples as well.
Guess this is my only ticket out.
Now, this level is way too dark, as there was a few bits where it was just completely black and I couldn't tell where the enemies were. Nothing quite like getting rail-shotted from pitch blackness. But this is a bit of a small price to pay for the opportunity to steal a rocket. Hideout, another short level that starts as it means to go on, as it is quite difficult at the beginning, but it does look very nice. There are also some well done secrets, a couple of which I ended up having to go back to because the game, well, it threw 2 tanks at me at once. And all I had was a machine gun with very little ammo. There is lots of little fun scripted sequences and bits for you to find, but it won't take you long to finish. As mentioned, I have been using a mix of Yagami and vanilla Quake 2, but you can use the remastered edition. Just make a folder called Maps, copy the BSP files over, and it will look great. This is Gibba Me Plenty, a very challenging map that looks really good on the updated engine. But it does also include those updated monsters with their newer moves. I really wasn't expecting the Berserker to do that jumping charge attack after playing on the other version. I also wasn't expecting the amount of brains that they included. It's not a monster that tends to get used all that often. I'm guessing many level designers weren't a big fan of them. Now we get all the updated textures and lighting from this newer engine, so things are glowing in very interesting ways, and it really makes me wish that they had added proper workshop support to this game, as there's many of these maps that people should enjoy far more, and that would have been a great way to really bring out the community. Another way to play this is via Quake 2 RTX. Here we have Death Is Not Worth Trying, which is the follow-up to Hideout. Now, much like that one, this is also a short map that is also built with challenge in mind. Now, one thing this does show off is the real-time lighting. As well, most user maps were a bit dark in places, and this one is no exception. But fire off a few bullets, and the whole place lights up in interesting ways. The RTX conversion is interesting, but it does feel a bit like those enhanced Quake 1 ports like FTE. It has all those bells and whistles going on that makes it look very fancy, but also quite distracting. This is definitely not my favourite way to play Quake 2. Now, as we continue looking at the CD, we find the partial conversions folder that turned out to be odd. Mostly it was tweaks to capture the flag, just with different guns, but one of them turned out to be a new map for X-Men Ravages of the Apocalypse. Yes, the add-on for Quake 1. This is such a confused CD, it really is. There are actually far more deathmatch mods in the levels folder than anywhere else, which I guess shouldn't be too much a surprise at this point. This also included more bots like CR Bot, which is on top of the Eraser bot that we also found in the AI folder. I honestly have no idea how much this CD cost when it was released, but I really do hope it wasn't too much, as they clearly didn't put as much effort into it as they probably should have done. Now, I had a lot of fun playing these new maps, and some of them were extremely well designed, but that's down to the quality of those mappers rather than this CD. And this actually makes me wish that I paid more attention to the Quake 2 mapping scene back in the day, as I really would have enjoyed these maps back then. But I might have moved on to Half-Life by this point. And if you want to experience this one, well, there are copies floating around the Internet Archive. But to be honest, you might be better off just finding some Quake 2 map packs and checking those out instead, as they're far more likely to be well organised. Now, for all I've joked about the quality of this CD, the quality of the maps have been quite excellent. So much so that I'm going to go back and play some more of them. So until next time, I was the Goldfish, that CD was a complete lie, and this was Goldfish on Games. Thanks for watching. I do hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, then you might want to consider liking and subscribing, as I really do enjoy checking out these types of unofficial CDs. And if that interests you, then you might want to check out some of the other ones that I've done in the past. I'll leave links on the screen for you.